Hey, it's day 7 of my journey towards writing my first fantasy novel. And yeah, it's 10 o'clock at night. I made the fatal mistake of thinking that I might as well just do this and this first, some urgent stuff that I wanted to take care of this morning, and then I'll get to my creative writing. And then other stuff started to pop up, and it became later and later. And then at the end of the day, I suddenly realized I haven't written anything. I still need to do creative writing. And you know that I pledged to do a bit of writing every day, no matter how much. And so I decided to, despite the fact that it's super late, I have to go to bed because I've got a very busy day tomorrow. I sat down and wrote for 10 minutes. And then I was recording this. So what did I write? Well, I tried to sketch out what happens in the first chapter. So I've already kind of sketched out the prologue, but in the first chapter, you get to know Timothy, the main protagonist of the story. He is a novice at this monastery, and Tim has quite a few flaws that he needs to overcome. That's kind of the journey that the story will be for him. So you want him to change his life. So it's not just about realizing a goal or saving this magical book. Ultimately, what the story is really about is about his transformation, and that is what makes us relate to him. So first, I need to introduce him with a couple of flaws. And his major flaw is that he is just not very certain of himself. He is insecure, and that has to do with the way he talks to himself. He's always like um, deprecating himself. He never thinks that he's good enough, strong enough. He looks up to a lot of people, always tries to get other people's approval. A lot of him is what I used to do when I was his age. And so I was thinking, how can I display these flaws? And at the same time, I want him to be likable. So I want to introduce what is called a save the cat moment. It's a good deed that he does, something that makes him immediately like sympathetic, but also everything has to go wrong for him. So it's basically a way to introduce him in such a way that we want to see what's next. We want to join him on this journey of self-discovery and growth. And so I was thinking, what could happen in that first chapter? Of course, initially I thought I will just write a scene in the monastery. Well, then I thought, well, no, that's too slow. I want more action, right? I want the reader to immediately be sucked into the story. And one of the things that I've learned as a television maker is you want movement, especially at the start of the program. And the more you move, the more you go from one location to another, the more the viewer will get sucked into the story. And so I was trying to apply that here too. By instead of starting at the monastery, I'm starting while this group of monks is heading towards the site, the sacred site for the solstice liturgy around this sacred book. As I explained in one of the previous updates, there's this magical book, and nobody knows exactly what it does, except for some very special scribes, like high-level monks, that work on that book or do something in secret, and nobody knows exactly what. Tim is super curious, but nobody's allowed to see that. But anyway, Tim thinks, if only I could be like those scribes, I want to be like them. And so how can I make myself noticed? Because I need my superior to kind of trust me and then grant me access to the formation that will ultimately lead me to this career as one of the book's protectors or whatever these guys do. And so while Tim is following along in this group of pilgrims to the and of course they're carrying this book in a golden shrine, and then I don't know, we'll come up with something. I've got plenty of Catholic imagery that I can use there to create I think a very visually appealing scene. So, but they're out in the woods because they're following a pilgrim's path, which takes them several days to get to the site, because this is a national site, right? Everybody is going on a pilgrimage there to be present at that solstice reading. And so, while Tim is heading there, he's thinking about, well, how can I make myself noticed? Well, you know what? If I do something really important during the liturgy that surrounds this solstice reading, then maybe they will see that I'm actually, worth an upgrade. And so one of the tasks that these novices can do is to be the turriferary. I'm not sure if that's a term, but anyway, the guy who swings the frankincense thing. How do you call that? Durable? There's a term for that. Anyway, I'll look it up first. But this is a magical version of the Middle Ages. This is a magical version of Ireland. So, um, the the frankincense that they use during this liturgy has to be magical frankincense, and it has to be a mix. It's like almost like a magic potion. And so, in order to be chosen by the abbot, by Father Superior, for that very noble task of preparing the frankincense for this super important liturgy once a year, um, the abbot is going to choose the novice who has made the best mix of ingredients. Now, how do you make ingredients? Oh, I'm making this up, of course. This is a magical version. They need to gather natural elements from the forest or whatever, and make the perfect blend. So you need to have stuff that you can set on fire, and so and this is one of the advantages that Tim has. He's a librarian. He is at the library, and during his free time, he's been looking up recipes for the perfect mix, the perfect blend of this frankincense. And so he knows what he needs to look for. However, he only finds subpar ingredients, like the mushrooms that he needs to put in are rotten, and it's just he doesn't find the right stuff. And he knows that his rivals, the other novices, already have prepared mixes. Some of them are carrying them around in small satchels. But there are also a few that are like him, looking for ingredients. And so he suddenly spots like an extremely rare ingredient. It's how do you call it? Like not a nut. Is it a pineapple? No, it's not a pineapple. Like, how do you call it? A pine cone. It's a pine cone in the top of a tree, but it's glowing. They're walking at night, and there was this one and has this almost magical glow, and he immediately realizes, oh my God, that is a very rare pineapple, a pine cone. It's a very rare pine cone. It's not a pineapple, because apparently, uh, these pine cones can, if they're touched by this magical firefly, and then it starts to shine brightly. So these fireflies have a certain magical power that makes everything they touch glow, and these fireflies do this to attract mates. So it has a function, because I think anything you introduce in a story needs to have a reason to be there, right? So but the thing is, normally you will see these bright cones for a moment in the top of the trees, but as soon as the mates arrive and they touch the cone, the light extinguishes. But on very rare occasions, the firefly gets lost or is killed or whatever, the mates never arrive, and the cone keeps shining brightly. And so our friend Tim knows he needs to climb up that tree in order to fetch it. But the thing is, one of the other boys has also seen that cone and is much faster than Tim, and is already halfway on his way in the tree to fetch that magical cone. And Tim is like frustrated, and he's like, should I go after him? Or it was the one chance he had to gather such a precious element for his mix, and now someone else is going to claim the prize. And then disaster strikes. The boy slips, falls to the ground, and breaks his ankle. And he is in tears, not just because of the pain, but because of the fact that he'll probably have to go home. And he won't be able to join the rest of the monks for the ceremony. And Tim pities him. And he's like, you know what? I'm going to help you. And he climbs in the tree, fetches the cone. And then he gives it to the boy. And he says, I'll carry you. And we're going to find one of the healers. One of the monks is able to heal you. You make that mix. I want you to have that role. And so Tim kind of like that's the save the cat moment. He does something super selfless, but at the same time he blames himself for not having done enough to get the abbot's graces. Anyway, so that's what I came up with. It's a little incident. I'll probably make it a little bit more magical because I want the reader to know from the first chapter. Like I imagine the people are browsing this in the local bookstore, and I want them to know from page one that this is magic, this is fantasy, this is fun. And despite the fact that this is a story about a monk and a novice and monasteries, what I want to prevent is that it feels like an historical novel, because then I think my target audience will think, well, that's boring. No, this is magical Ireland. This is incredible. So anyway, that's what I wrote down. You know what? It actually took me more time to explain that to you and to share it in this video than it took for me to write it down. But anyway.